Hello, I'm Cheryl, and the animal I picked to do my species project on is the corvus cryptoleucus, also known as the Chihuahuan raven. The raven is a main figure in First Nation spiritual beliefs. Three notable tribes in which the raven is featured in are the Haida, Tlingit, and the Tsimshian. The Haida and Tlingit have many stories in common. People believe that the raven is a trickster, and a reflection of one's soul. The raven is the one who released the sun from the tiny box, then made the stars and the moon. There are also stories that he brought the first humans up out of the ground because he needed to fill up a party he was throwing. The raven is shown to be a very creative force, and teaches us many valuable lessons, usually through counterexample. In Tsimshian mythology, the raven is also known as the giant or the Txamzam. It is the creator of the world, and the intermediator between the spiritual and physical world. The Tsimshian creation myth is very interesting, in my opinion. It's set in a world where the universe is dark and full of animal spirits. An animal chief kills his son by making him overeat, and burns his corpse's intestines. The next day, this boy wakes up renewed in his bed, and the chief adopts him. This young boy continues eating too much, and eventually the chief sends him away. The boy becomes the raven. He then disguises himself as a king, and goes back to the village. He is still insatiably hungry, and he tricks a child into becoming his slave. One night, when the slave comes to invite the raven to dinner, the raven pushes the slave off the bridge, then takes the food from the slave. Then he hosts the potluck for the villagers, and turns them all to stone. This story shows that the raven is a connection between spiritual and physical world, moving between death and life, and also shows human traits that we should not practice, such as greed and jealousy. I'm sorry for my bad drawings, Anyways, about the corvus cryptoleucus. The Chihuahuan raven comes from the Corvidae family, which is a family of oscine passerine birds, including ravens, crows, magpies, and others. It is part of kingdom Animalia, also known as kingdom Metazoa, meaning that it is an animal that is multicellular, heterotrophic, consumes food substances, reproduces sexually, no cell walls, capable of motion, and can respond to external stimuli. The Chihuahuan raven has all black plumage, beak and mouth, as well as strong gray-black legs and feet. Their upper parts are glossy, sometimes with a purple, blue of green sheen, and it has dark brown irises and white feather bases. This is one picture of the Chihuahuan raven. Isn't it so cute? The Chihuahuan raven reproduces sexually. They reproduce by internal fertilization, meaning that the male brings the sperm to the female cloaca. Unlike humans, birds only have one hole, called the cloaca. It is the one exit and entrance for sperm, eggs, and waste. Once the sperm fertilizes the egg, a hard shell starts developing. The shells have a fluid-filled amnion, which is a thin membrane forming a closed sac around the embryo. Eggs are usually laid in a nest, used as incubation. After 18-21 days of incubation, the eggs will hatch. They will stay with their parents for around a month before leaving the nest. The Chihuahuan raven nests in colonies. They breed mostly in spring and summer, mid-February until late May, because of the better food supply after rains begin. They nest in trees, shrubs, sometimes on utility poles, and buildings or other artificial supports. The height of the nest depends on the place, but it often is built between 5 to 40 feet above the ground. They build their nests using sticks and twigs, lines with grass, bark fibers, animal hair, and anything they can forage, including paper and barbed wire. Isn't it so cute? The Chihuahuan raven lives in arid and semi-arid grasslands. It avoids heavily wooded area and true deserts, and prefers places that have greenery but less rain. It needs these conditions to sustain themselves because they need wood to build nests, and prey to eat. Some places where it has been sighted are eastern Colorado and western Kansas. The Chihuahuan raven is an omnivorous. Its diet typically includes animal matter, including large insects, spiders, earthworms, snails, rodents, lizards, eggs and the young, children, of other birds. Like crows, the Chihuahuan raven is a scavenger, and will often eat garbage and carrion. On the food chain, it is a secondary consumer, eating those beneath it, such as frogs, insects, worms, and other younger birds. It can be eaten by upper tertiary consumers, such as lynxes, coyotes and cougars. Owls, martins, and sometimes eagles will prey on their eggs and young. Here is a diagram showing the food chain of the raven. The raven species is somewhat overpopulated. A notable place where the numbers are too high is in California. This overpopulation is affecting the tortoise and other threatened species, such as the bird species sage grouse, California condor, least tern, and snowy plover among others. Raven predation of these species creates a dangerous imbalance within the various ecosystems of this area. If the raven population keeps growing, then there may be even more problems than currently. As seen in our city with crows, ravens may end up digging up the grass looking for food. This damages the grass and plants, which would affect the oxygen system and food for other species. Unlikely, but if the raven were to go underpopulated, then there would be a lot of waste, and the species that it eats may start overpopulating, causing even more problems. The Chihuahuan raven depends on many other species. It needs to eat their prey, such as insects, frogs, rodents, and others listed before. Species that depend on them are the ones that eat them, such as the eagles, coyotes, and others. Another thing to note is that since ravens and crows are scavengers, and eat carcasses and garbage, technically humans depend on them. As mentioned before, ecosystems would be affected if the raven were to go into either overpopulation or underpopulation. The Earth systems interact with the raven in many ways. It needs to breathe, interacting with the oxygen system. It needs to drink, interacting with the water system. It also needs a place to live, interacting with the phosphorus system. In conclusion, the raven is very interesting animal. Its connections to the indigenous peoples are very unique, and I really enjoyed researching this animal for my species project.